Who do I have? Back with you on the People's Business. Let's get some more information and some more insight from our guests here with us tonight. The Advisory Committee for Improving the Lives of People with Disabilities. They've been working hard over the past four or 5 months, just trying to get the situation right. Senator Boyce, I want to come to you to talk a bit about this access. I was asking you about the challenges you had early on with access as someone living with a disability. Talk a bit about the challenges you faced.
So my primary challenges, Shane, related to education. I grew up in Barbados in the 1990s at a time when we didn't think that, although Kerryann preceded me in the educational system and Craig and some others, we didn't generally think that persons with disabilities could operate in the mainstream classroom or should operate in the mainstream classroom. And though I do have a physical challenge, I have no intellectual challenges, but getting the Ministry of Education and teachers and principals and other authorities to kind of square those realities and understand that a physical disability did not summarily mean an intellectual challenge was my primary concern. And so through the advocacy of myself and my parents, we pushed through. It is regrettable, though, that some 20 years on, the system has not changed that much. I recall hearing one of the submissions from a member of the public at the second to last public town hall meeting, and he said that he had to move his child through about 9 schools before settling on an environment that was best suited for him. Those realities are regrettable and can no longer be tolerated, and the legislation certainly aims at bringing a resolution to those issues.
Okay, so now on the education front, how does it help to tackle those challenges that, like some of the ones you had, in terms of making sure that those children with disabilities, whatever they are covered?
So it privileges assessment. The way that we determine whether a child is capable to operate in a quote-unquote mainstream classroom or not is through assessment, and not through the kind of summary judgment of any particular single individual or individuals. And so that is one of the things that the legislation responds to. The other thing that it responds to is the provision of aids during teaching time or during examination time as the situation requires. Some of those aids that are specified in the legislation so far are scribes and extra time and color coding, all of which various persons with disabilities need in order to operate in the classroom and to excel in exams.
Kerry, you would have, as Andwele said, and as I said too, because I saw you at school going through your paces too. I was a lot younger, but we saw you managing the challenges and facing them head on. Andwele said, Senator Boyce said, you've been able to cover a number of bases. Are you satisfied with the level of coverage that you have under the new legislation to come?
Now, satisfied is a difficult word to define in this case, because let us, as I started off by saying when we started the show, this legislation seeks to be comprehensive in addressing all the needs of persons with disabilities. And nothing will ever be a perfect fit. Nothing will ever, well, I wouldn't say nothing, but it's difficult, I should say, to cover everything. So, for example, I may not be, I like, one of the issues that I think we've had for a long time is, as Andwele was saying just now, assessments. We need more persons to provide assessments for persons with disabilities. Now, in the legislation, we are hoping to address that we have the right to have access to that kind of assessment for persons with disabilities so that children, young people, and adults, because don't let's forget tertiary education, and we speak to the fact that we need lifelong learning opportunities for persons with disabilities. The legislation speaks to providing those services and ensuring that we have a system. We've had children with disabilities in the mainstream who have gone from one school to the other, and when they get to the other school is now scrambling because they were not properly informed as to what services the student would need. So the legislation seeks to address that. But let's not forget, legislation is only the beginning. We still have the work of ensuring that it's implemented. And that's why I want to bring you to the part where we discuss the commission that the legislation hopes to establish. This commission and eventually the tribunal that would hopefully be established, that we're looking to have established, provides a medium for persons with disabilities, advocates, caregiver advocates, to come before and say, look, this is a situation that we're dealing with. This is not right. We need this addressed. And I think even if the legislation doesn't speak directly to your specific issue, the fact that it will provide such a forum that you can go in front of to raise those kinds of things to, it will broaden the scope of what redress is available to us. Because right now, there really isn't many recourses for persons with disabilities when they are being discriminated against, right? And that is what this legislation seeks to do. So even if it doesn't address the issue, we are providing a means by which we hopefully can have the issues addressed.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Listen, I mean, it's so. I think this is a step in the right direction. And as you said, the legislation is just the beginning. You would think that it's a bit more than that, but it's a first step. It's a first step, and I'm happy that we're taking that.
We have colleagues on the committee that have used this term. You cannot legislate attitude. And part of the biggest challenge we as persons with disabilities face is attitude and perception. And really spoke to it just now, the grandmother that called in, all of that really comes down to attitude and perception. Some people just don't want to be bothered. Some people don't think it's their problem. You know, because disability, I've said it before, disability is one of those sexy topics. It isn't pretty. It isn't something, that attracts the sweetest thoughts for a lot of people. And because we wrestle with those things, attitude remains a big concern for us.
Yeah.
But this legislation, yes, this is definitely a step. But let's not forget, this is not to say that there haven't been other steps. We couldn't get here without all the work that has gone in over the years. There's been a lot of work. Bonnie wouldn't be doing what she's doing now if it wasn't recognized some time ago that there needed to be sign language interpretation provided in these kinds of discussions so that the deaf community could be part of it. Andwele and I wouldn't have had the education we had if persons didn't recognize that we had the right to such an education. So there have been some steps, but this one is another step, a major one, in the road to success for persons with disabilities. And it's long overdue for Barbados. I will say that with no bones. Other Caribbean territories have their legislation. Guyana 2010, the Bahamas 2011. Jamaica did theirs 10 years ago, but they only proclaimed it this year. We have legislation in Haiti, in other countries around the Caribbean. So Barbados is just taking the right step. We've ratified the convention, as both Andwele and I have said before. And this convention calls for legislation. So we're really fulfilling what our obligations are to a community. I've said this on many occasions, Shane. Persons with disabilities have a contribution to make to society. And what this committee is doing in the 6 months that we have had, this committee is seeking to ensure that another platform is set in place for us to make that contribution.
And we do have somebody on the line to make another contribution as well. A caller on the line. Good night. Welcome to the People's Business. What's your comment or question? Try not to listen to that television set. Please listen to your phone line.
Oh dear.
Yeah, the caller, they ended that call prematurely. But you're right, and as you said, Kerryann, let's keep going in the right direction. A number of countries in the region, it's good to hear the steps that they have taken to make sure that they're covering people living with disabilities. Barbados should definitely do the same. I think we have that caller back, or another caller on the line. Good night. Welcome to the People's Business. What's your question or comment?
Hi, good night.
Hi, good night.
I'm a mother of 3 kids, right? And I have some disabilities. But a mother of 3 and their father has passed away. All 2 fathers have passed away. One father passed when she was 5 from cancer, and the other father passed when my daughter was 8 years old from diabetes. Now, my problem is that I am not getting no help from my daughter's family, right? And this is not right, because her little check that they get for death, survivor's benefit, it's not enough to raise 3 children. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do understand what you're saying. Your challenge is the financial assistance that you need to take care of the family there. Kerryann, in terms of the survivor's benefit, has there been anything done as far as the legislation is concerned there to help
Well,
those families in need?
The survivor's benefit is not part of the benefit scheme for persons with disabilities directly. But that is another issue altogether, because the mother said she herself has a disability. So the Social Security, as you know, we're going through a process right now of NIS reform. And one of the areas that the community that we've heard at these town hall and all the other meetings that we've had is that there needs to be some attention paid to the benefits that are being offered to persons with disabilities. There are some benefits being offered now. They are not adequate in a lot of ways, but there are a lot of gaps in the services. For example, the blind and the deaf mute, and I'm specifically saying deaf mute and not deaf for a reason, are entitled to the non-contributory pension from the age of 18. But you notice, Shane, I said deaf mute. If you're deaf with speech, you're not. That's an automatic disqualifier. If you are mute but have hearing, that is it's a struggle, and these persons struggle to find employment. The other area of that is that that if the legislation says that you cannot be employed, persons with disabilities may be able to be employed, but it's a difficulty to find employment when you have a disability. So here you may have a blind person who is receiving benefits, but they can work, but they can't afford to lose those benefits because they may not be able to access less than minimum wage. But when you have a disability, I'm sure that mother, she spoke of her children. She did not speak of her own needs. But when you live with a disability, she has additional needs as well. I don't know what her disability is. She didn't specify. But she has additional needs as well. She didn't talk about her needs. She spoke about her children, her concern for her children, right? But she can't provide properly for her children because she has a disability. And therefore her funding, even if she's working, her funding has an additional strain. So yes, it is something that we hope under the NIS reform, but the survivors benefits is not something that we can directly address.
Sonia, Senator Boyce, Kerryann, I want to give you some final words. I want to start with you, Sonia, in terms of, let's look at the register first. Is there a place where you can register as a person living with disabilities, or that your parents, your family, your friends can help to register you so that you can be taken care of in that vein?
Okay, so we have the National Disability Unit, and you can register there as well. Okay, um, I guess a lot of persons might not be aware of this fact, but that is a good stepping point for you to register your young ones. And if you haven't done it, that would be a good place to register. So at least we have a running list of persons within the island that we can at least add some support to. Okay, so that's one of the areas that would be good. Okay. Um, I think you can have the information online. I think you can have the forms, or you can give them a call as well. I don't have the number offhand, but that is definitely somewhere that you can register.
Okay, well, I'll try to get that for you. I don't know if Kerryann has that. We can put it up on
Five
our
three five
screen.
3600.
535
Nice to carry.
3600. Okay, so
Yes,
we'll have.
and
Thank you.
I just want to quickly add to that, Shane.
Mhm.
The Trident ID card, I couldn't leave the show without saying this. Persons with disabilities, you can have disability placed on the card. That is one method of registering with the National Disabilities Unit. It allows government to know how many persons with disabilities there are, but more than that, it gives you a tangible means of presenting to persons that you are registered as a person with a disability. So, because there are a lot of, we haven't addressed the hidden disabilities tonight. There are a lot of hidden disabilities, and those need to be accounted for as well. So, I want to encourage everyone, if you have a disability, if your family member has a disability, get registered. And to the wider Barbadian population, if the officer asks you if you have a disability, that is not an insult. It is not an offense. It is that they are making sure that they are covering. It's not that they're looking at you and saying something wrong with you. Persons with disabilities like myself, nothing is wrong with me. I just live with a challenge, as we all do. And this is a means by which we can identify the population of persons with disabilities.
Thank you so much, Kerryann. Senator Boyce, final thoughts from you.
I will end by asking Barbadians to continue to contribute to the committee, their recommendations and perspectives at inclusion@barbados.gov.bb. Um, as we continue to draft both the law and policy, we want to continue to hear from you, as even as the town halls have come to an end. Shane, that is how we best animate this process. That is how we best ensure that we create an enabling environment for persons with disabilities. We hear that there are a myriad of challenges that we face, but the only way we fix those things is having an approach where we all participate as a nation, seeing this as an issue to be fixed and lives to be improved.
Stakeholder consultation and dialogue and action at the end of it all, as this piece of legislation gets ready for Parliament. And of course, as a senator, you'll be seeing it come into the upper chamber as well. But I really want to take this time to thank all of you for coming and sharing with us here on The People's Business, highlighting some of the challenges, but highlighting the solutions to come for improving the lives of people with disabilities. Thank you, Sonia. Thank you, Kerryann. Thank you, Senator Boyce. And thank you, viewers, for spending your Sunday night with us. I'm Shane Seeley. Good night.